Well, hello folks, and welcome back to Fisting Jawa Save the Universe. I am Fist-25, your host for this video, and today we're going to do something, I guess we're going to remake a video I made a long time ago, and that video was on, I guess, the basics of dogfighting, like 10 patches ago, something like that, and I have seen a lot of guys lately on 323 and master modes and how to do some of the dogfighting, and I guess it just didn't have all the tips and tricks that I was looking for as far as a basics video. So I'd like to present that to you now. I actually recorded a lot of this earlier and it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. It didn't have all the information I wanted it in there, and so here goes take two. And I think we'll be able to get this done. Maybe. I hope I don't forget anything. But without further ado, let's roll the intro and get into it. All right, so as boring as it may be, the first thing we need to do is to go look inside of our options, our keybinds, our controls for Star Citizen. You can do this basically from the main menu, or you can do this in game, and you're going to want to click on options. All right, everybody, so here we are at the game settings menu. Very first thing we're going to take a look at under game settings is the cinematic cameras. I have it set to no right here on the screen. If you know what that does, I have no idea. Or have I ever seen a cinematic camera show up? So yeah, if you know what that does, please let me know. I'd love to know, but I leave that option turned off. Under vibration, I do leave it on. It's a little more immersive for me to have vibration on, but some people say, hey, turn vibration off. And I want to kind of preface this part of saying, hey, I'm not an expert dogfighter here. I don't do a lot of PvP. I do mostly PvE missions. I don't do a lot of piracy either, so please keep that in mind. This is kind of targeted towards the average Star Citizen pilot player, and it's just some things I've learned over the years and things I prefer to do when I'm flying. Camera spring movement. This option right here on the screen, I leave it as off. What this does is when you're in the ship and you're moving around a little bit, it kind of has this little bit of a bounce to it. Because I do a lot of filming with VoIP and VoIP in the cockpit, I tend to leave that off because I don't like that weird little bounce movement. But if you like that, it's immersive for you, turn it on. That's most of these options here. If it's immersive for you and you like it, leave it on. There's no point to leave it or to turn it off just because someone told you to. It is completely up to you. Under the hints, I turn the regular hints off because I don't like seeing them. I've played the game long enough. I know the basic controls. But under control hints, because Master Modes is new and the game is still... well, the game has so many freaking keybinds in it. It's hard to remember what does what, especially when you're going from mining to salvaging to dogfighting to doing this, to doing that, to doing this. The little control hints shows up in the very kind of bottom right corner, right under where my head is over here, and it'll kind of tell you, hey, these are some things you can do. So I do tend to leave that on unless I'm doing specific filming. I keep my subtitles turned off. I keep my ship entry labels on because I have so many ships. I don't remember necessarily where all the elevators are, but if you have like 2 ships and you know where all the entrances are, turn that off. You don't need it. It's not immersive unless you like it, then leave it on. Moving further down, let's see. There's a lot of stuff in this menu. Some of it applies to flying and dogfighting, some of it doesn't. Okay, under flight, the HOTAS thrust invert toggle. I don't use a HOTAS. I use a HOSAS, stick and stick. What that necessarily means, I don't know. I just leave it as yes. Disable G-Safe when boosting. So G-Safe is a way for your ship's thrusters to prevent you from blacking out when you pull maneuvers. Normally it's on. You can turn that off when you dogfight if you want. I know Avenger 1 recommends to do that. I'm not Avenger 1. I have enough to think about when I'm dogfighting, and I haven't been doing it for 12 years. So I leave it on all the time, except when I boost. When I boost, I'm telling my ship, hey, go past the parameters, and sometimes you're going to black out. But I leave this G safe disable when boosting turned on. We'll go over that when we do the flight portion. I leave my speed limiter defaults on. You can change that if you want. Up to you. That's your little bar to say how fast you can actually go. Your proximity defaults, I leave them on. I know Avenger 1 says take them off. It's not a big deal to me. That kind of assists you when you're moving your ship around the proximity of another thing. So like when you're landing and things like that. I just leave it on. It doesn't seem to affect me. Space brake engages boost. I do leave that on as a yes. I want my space brake to engage full boost when I'm trying to slow down as fast as possible. That's hitting the X button. And guys, most of this will be mouse and keyboard. Some of it will be actually using your sticks or something like that. Probably mostly mouse and keyboard, because that's what I fly in about 90% of the time. And yes, you can dogfight with mouse and keyboard. Couple mode default on. I leave that on because I usually fly in coupled mode. Sometimes you can fly in decoupled mode, and if you don't know what decoupled mode is, think of it as you're flying along, and let's say your coupled mode is off. When you no longer input thrust into the ship, you, just like real physics, you will just keep on going until friction slows you down at some point in the same direction that you're going. So that's basically Newtonian physics, right? You have to have a force applied in a different direction to move your ship in a different direction. So that is basically what decoupled mode is. If you leave coupled mode on, then when you're flying around, and let's say you stop giving a throttle input, well, your ship will say, okay, he doesn't want any more throttle, so it will just fire its retro thrusters to slow you down to stop. If you are going in a certain direction, it will counteract that direction. Maybe that helps in a dogfight. I don't know. I like I said, I have enough to think about when I'm trying to focus on shooting my target and getting the proper range and the proper position. I just tend to leave it on, but we'll go over that in the flight section again. Okay, relative throttle, I'm not messing with that. Your ESP strength, leave that at 1. That is your enhanced stick precision, I think. You want that on there. We're not going to deep dive into ESP. ESP is a good thing. You want it on there. Your VJoy, your visibility with VJoy, I only leave that on with mouse input. And VJoy is a virtual joystick, basically. It's how your mouse can act as a joystick. When there's going to be a line from the center reticle that goes up, down, left, right, wherever my mouse is going, and it shows the longer the line, the more the strength that I'm telling the ship to input in to move in a different direction. That is basically the VJoy visibility, is how that's working. It's part of the flight mechanics. A lot of these things are personal preference. Do you want your VJoy to have a dead zone? Do you want it to have a certain range and yaw and pitch? Do you want it to be a shorter throw or longer throw? It's up to you. Your velocity indicator, this is your TVI. This is going to be basically a less than and the equal than, or I'm sorry, less than greater than sign. That's going to tell you the direction that your ship is traveling in when you're not traveling directly forward. I have mine fade, so when I'm going forward, it doesn't show, but you could turn that to always on, always off, fading. I leave mine as fading. I like to know if I'm in a turn, how far it is until my ship is going straight. What else is in here? Some gimbal modes. I mean, you guys need to go through this stuff and look and see the things you want. Probably the last thing I'm going to talk about here is pilot look ahead. This is where, as you're looking straight into space from your cockpit and you target something that's up in the corner, if you have this turned on, your view will kind of shift like you're looking up at the target, but just a little bit, not a ton. And you can set the strength of it as well. When you turn and look towards it, your head will then turn back towards the middle of the cockpit. But I like to have that off. I know if I'm going to target that guy, I can see the little indicator and I need to turn my ship towards him. It kind of wires my brain, hey, I need to move towards him. So I leave look ahead off. It is a little more immersive, but if I want to look and view and look at things, I will turn my Toby on and I'll just move my head a little bit and it'll move my head around. And you can mess with all the strength on that. You can do it with driving, with turrets, things like that. Global camera shake, I leave that as off. And I think that's about it in this in game settings. Now moving on to controls. Under controls, you can see on the bottom right here, it says mouse. So this is just my mouse controls. If I click the little arrow, it'll go to gamepad, and then the different sticks I have. Stick 1, which happens to be my right stick. Stick 2 is my left stick or my throttle stick. And it goes all the way up to 8, I think. But right now we're going to focus on mouse. So I don't mess with inversion settings on my mouse. I leave everything pretty much default. If I move my mouse up, I want my ship to go up. It's the opposite for my stick. So if I move over to my control stick, which is my right stick, you can set all your dead zones around there and things like that, but that's a personal preference. For inversion settings, I go to flight. Actually, I don't do that with that stick. I do it with my throttle stick. I'll go to inversion settings and flight movement. You'll see forward back is turned on to yes. That means when I want to go forward on my left stick, I'll move that stick forward and I will go forward. Otherwise, it's inverted and I'll go backwards. So I turn that to yes, and then I have a little velocity limiter guy on here, which is under relative, and I also invert that. When I want my velocity limiter to go up, I want to press up on that button. And that's really about it for controls. You can mess with dead zone, saturation, all that kind of stuff. That is up to you. Again, all personal preference. You really need to play the game and maybe even do it in Arena Command or something like that, so you're not losing ships in the PU, to get used to what settings you actually like. And I'm still learning my settings with Matt. All right, folks, so now we're here at the key binding section of the control menu. And if you've been here before, wow, is it a treat for you. There's a lot of keys for Star Citizen, and we're not going to go over all of them, obviously, but a lot of this is going to be on mouse and keyboard because I don't know what kind of gamepad or sticks you have, but yeah, this is a ways to do things. So first off, with our left mouse, or with our mouse, the left mouse button is going to fire weapon group 0 on your ship. Right mouse button is going to fire weapon group 1. So you can set up those weapon groups however you want when you're inside your ship on your multifunction display. The middle mouse button, or the scroll wheel, is actually mouse button 3. And when you click it, it will switch when you're in a master mode, like SCM master modes. It will switch from SCM to missile operator mode, missile operator mode to scan mode back to SCM guns mode. You're in the quantum master mode. It will, if you click it, it'll switch over to nav mode, which is the same as quantum mode. You can go max speed, but you won't have all the navigation markers. You won't be able to quantum travel. Click it again, it'll go into scan mode, but in navigational speed thing. Click it one more time, takes you back into the quantum mode. I have a couple separate buttons on my mouse that let me do some other things, and we'll go over that when we get into that keybind. As you kind of move through looking at the default keys on the keyboard, W is WASD, right? They're big in every game that you play mouse and keyboard on. But when you're flying a ship, W is to strafe forward. Main engine thrust. For every ship. A is to strafe left. B is to strafe right. S is to strafe backwards. And it's also reverse. Once you're stopped, and you can go backwards. Q is to roll left, E is to roll right. Spacebar strafes up, and left control strafes down. So that is your 6 degrees of freedom. There's a lot of other keys on here I don't necessarily want to go over, but you need to know them for basic flight. So we can mess with our keys and stuff in here, and also notice, can't really see it. Let me see if I can my camera around. Let's go. You can see right under my face here is keyboard and mouse. If I click to the right, it'll bring up the gamepad. If I click it again, it'll bring up the single joystick menu. And that allows you to configure all your joystick keybinds using one menu, even if you have 8 joysticks. So we're going to go. I hate that that does that. We're going to go back to keyboard and mouse, and we're going to click on advanced controls customization. So in here, it's kind of, I guess, kind of a big deal. We're going to look at the very first menu, our vehicle seats and operator modes. This tells you your commands for eject and things like that. But to go into mining mode, not that mining is dogfighting, it's the M key. To toggle scanning operator mode, it's the V key. The next operator mode, the important one, is your mouse button 3. You're clicking down on the middle mouse button. Pretty much every mouse has that at this point. That's important to know. Looking into vehicles and cockpits. You can turn on flight systems with right Alt and R, or you can just turn on with power and then turn. I don't think we have anything we need to look at with view. We might go into view things while we're in game. A big one is movement. You got to know how to move your ship around. Keyboard and mouse, pitch and yaw are controlled by the mouse. The Y-axis and the X-axis. Rolling left, Q, rolling right, E, up, spacebar, down, left control. 6 degrees of freedom. As we scroll down here, it'll show you our throttle increase, throttle backwards, strafe left, strafe right. Here's a kind of a hack, I guess you call it a hack. We used to have cruise control in the game, and it used to be tied to the button C. Well, it doesn't exist like that anymore. But it can. You just have to manipulate your keybinds if you want to get the cruise control back. So over here is throttle trim set to 100% trim, which is basically max throttle, to wherever your velocity indicator is on your throttle, which you can change. The long press and short press, I set it to C, and that's because when I'm doing it, I'll press longer than I think, or maybe I'll just tap it, whatever. It's C, it's cruise control. That puts it to where the ship will throttle up and throttle back as whatever my velocity indicator is set to, which is awesome. That's exactly what I want cruise control to do. The caveat to this is to turn that off, I can't just hit C. I actually have to go to trim, release, long press or short press. And I bind that to my X key, which is also space brake. And so I brake a little bit and it will take me out of my cruise control. So it's just like driving a car. Set your cruise control, going down the road. You can't just turn your cruise control off like a car. You actually have to hit your brakes, but that will take your cruise control off in a car, right? Okay, another keybind in here is decoupled mode. That is left Alt and C. By default, there's a button up here with cruise mode. That's also tied to left Alt and C. That doesn't work with, you have decoupled mode and cruise mode. Only one shall rule. So I suggest you take off the cruise mode, do my cruise control trick on here, and leave your decoupled mode to left Alt and C. If you do not know what decoupled mode is, and I think we go into it in the video, it's basically where you're flying through space, and in a normal coupled mode, your ship responds to your throttle perfectly. Meaning if I input forward thrust, I will move forward. As soon as I let off my thrust, I'm telling my ship, you're in coupled mode, I want you to go to 0. I'm not inputting anything else. It will fire the opposite thrusters, in that case my retro thrusters, to stop me from moving forward. Same thing with right and left and up and down and sideways and backwards. That is coupled mode flight. You can hold down forward thrust and move your mouse or move your stick around, and it will follow you. But when you let go of any thrust inputs, your ship will stop moving. It will try to engage the other thrusters to stop you moving. When you're in decoupled, that doesn't happen. Basically, I can be going forward and decoupled, and I can put that input into whatever speed I want, and I can move my ship with the mouse. I move the mouse around. Well, my ship is still going this way, even though my nose is facing a different way. I could fire my weapons the opposite direction while I'm still traveling in a different direction. And that works on all 6 degrees. It's super cool. it's basically Newtonian physics, right? You're going to keep moving unless there's a force that acts in the opposite way. It can get confusing though, especially if you don't know if it's on or if it's off, or necessarily like you think couple mode is on, but it's really not. And you're like, why did I crash into the asteroid? So I typically leave it on even for dogfights, but I probably should have it off. I need to practice dogfighting more with decoupled off. So I do go into it in the video a little bit, so for what that's worth. Boost, left shift. And then to actually change my speed limiter in relative, not absolute, relative, is the mouse wheel. That makes it go up and down more. I could go faster or I could go slower. I have a reset to SCM. That's an old keybind with old, but I can set things to the basically the default SCM speed. What else? Base brake is X. ESP, I would recommend you not turn ESP off. I don't see why you would want to turn it off. It's especially if you're flying with a mouse. Leave it on. Here's the thing for the G-force. Why it clicks on that. For G-force safety on and off, really should be G-safe, right? I'm not sure what the G-force safety means, but if it means G-safe, what that is when you're flying around and you typically have G-safe turned on. You're moving in a direction where you're pulling so many G's you're going to black out. With G-safe on, your ship won't let you black out, at least not all the way. Maybe a little bit of tunnel vision. So it really won't let you go into G-lock. It won't give you as much thrust in a certain direction that you're asking for. If you turn that off, it'll give you as much thrust in it as it can in a direction, and you could black out by doing things like that. Also, you typically by default, when you boost, when you have afterburner on, it turns your G-safe off. So you can black yourself out while you're boosting, even with G-safe, this option turned on. So be careful of that, especially in third person, because you don't know that you're blacking out in third person. You will just lose control of your ship and not be able to move it and crash into a mountain or something. I've never done that. Okay, moving on. What else is really in here? Okay, master modes. The master mode cycle, it's a long press of the B key. I actually don't mind that because it used to be the quantum key. You just held B. I'm still fine with doing that. I have it set up separately on my stick for a different button, of course, but I actually really like that. So I hold it again to go from the nav mode, master mode, the quantum mode, back into SCM mode. You can set it up to whatever you want though. There is direct button presses that take you straight into nav mode and straight into SCM mode. It's basically your gun. Space combat maneuvering, standard combat maneuvering, something like that. So basically, do you want to go fast and not have your quantum markers? Because the quantum thing really doesn't matter. It's still the same master mode. You can set those up to mouse presses, whatever you want. When you do jump, excuse me, when you do jump with quantum, it is button 1 on your mouse. Probably should know that by now. Okay, gravity compensation. That is where if you're sitting above a moon or a planet or something like that, and your ship is not falling into the planet, that is gravity compensation. Your ship will fire its thrusters to keep you at the place you're at. Think of it almost like hover mode, almost, right? You can turn that off and you will give yourself extra thrust in your thrusters to do things. With the trade-off, because Star Citizen's all about trade-offs, that you will fall to your death and die if you're not careful. So I just keep it on. I haven't, because I fight most of my stuff in space, most of my battles in space, but in atmosphere, if you're not paying attention, you could just crash and die. So I keep it on. And it doesn't even work in space. So gravity compensation, it could help you in atmosphere. Automatic precision mode. I don't know what the automatic precision mode in. So that's interesting. I may have to play with that at some point in the future. We are going to go into precision targeting mode when we get to that section, which it's actually not in the targeting section. So let me scroll back up out of flight. I think we need anything in quantum, docking, targeting. Okay, obviously T is to target. That'll target whatever's in my view. If there's more than one, I can hit T multiple times to target the target I want. If I want to pin a target, 1, 2, and 3 on my keyboard. If I want to unpin that target, left alt 1, 2, and 3. And then you can go back to your pin targets and things. Remove all pin target is 0. And if you want to unlock the target you have locked, left alt and T. Look ahead. Look ahead. It's a different option that's in game settings, but you can enable and disable look ahead, left alt and L. Target cycling. Do we have anything in here? So this is just moving around to your different targets. You could go to your attackers forward by hitting 4. Hostiles is 5. Friendlies is 6. All is 7. And here's a big one, sub-targets. When you hit R and you're looking at a target, it's really hard to see. I'm going to show it in the video, but when you hit R, you can sub-target around to different parts of the ship that you want to blow up or try to disable. Really, it really works well with precision targeting mode, especially on bigger ships. Smaller ships, not so much, but because it's much smaller of an area to get real precise shots on. But sub-targeting, you have to hit R. It's almost impossible to see what you're sub-targeting because it's on the MFD and not the HUD where it should be. It's only set up to go forward by default. If you want a backwards key, you're going to have to put that in yourself. If you want to reset to main targets, left alt. That is a big one. Flight radar, don't care about that. Okay. Vehicles, weapons. There we go. So obviously we talked about firing your weapon group. It should be weapon group 0 and then weapon group 1, but it's left mouse button, right mouse button. Changing your gimbal mode around is G. When you're in missile operator mode, if you want to increase your missiles, you hit G. Left alt and G makes your missiles decrease. A lot of these keys share the same thing for a good reason. Okay, here, lead and lag pips. I have this set up a certain way on my mouse for, I don't know why it's not on here, but it's probably set to a different thing, different keybind. But if you want a lead pip, which is basically as you're shooting at a target, if you're trying to time your shot, say like he's flying this way, you're flying this way, well, by the time your ammo hits the target, you're going to fire this way and they're going to convert at the same point. That's a lead pip. A lag pip is a little bit different. It's hard to explain. I don't like the lag pips necessarily, so I don't use them as much. One thing with the lag pip is that you can see your target move better. You're focused more on the target moving than getting focused on the pip. Try not to get pip focused and just stare at that pip the whole time. Figure out, it helps with the precision lines, which we're going to go over in just a sec, but try to figure out the way your opponent is moving and stay rolled with him in the direction that they are flying, rolling left, rolling right, pulling back on the stick. Ultimately, you want to be in a pitch with that other ship because you have more thrusters on the bottom of your ship because we talked about the gravity thing. So you're able to pull a pitch maneuver, pulling your stick back better than you are in any other direction with your thrusters. Except your main thrusters, which are going forward, and your retro thrusters, which is why backstrafing. But this can set your pips. You might want to experiment with them, see what you like best. This is really individualized. Okay, precision lines toggle. We'll show this in the video for sure, but this puts little lines around the pip that you're shooting at, and it'll kind of tell you what, because sometimes it's hard to see, especially small ships, which direction that they're turning. It's just two little lines, and you can follow those lines, so you can roll in with them and stuff like that. Pip fading. Do you want to fade your pip? Do you want it on or off? You can set these up in control, but you can toggle that with a keyboard. Here's the big one: gunnery UI magnification toggle. So right now the HUD, the pips are actually really small, and that could be a good thing if you're trying not to be pip focused, but you're trying to follow this little tiny green pip around the screen. Well, you can make that bigger by doing gunnery UI magnification toggle. Make it bigger. I'll show that in the video for sure, but that's something that can help with dogfighting, I guess. Convergence distance. So this is where your guns shoot. Think if I had a target right here and my ship's like right here and I'm shooting at it. Well, my guns are kind of pointed inward. If I'm too close to it, my guns are going to miss him. Okay? Because they're shooting, they're not shooting in like this. They're kind of shooting forward. I would have to move backwards in order to have my shots line up for convergence to hit the point I'm aiming at if it's too close. You can change the convergence distance of your guns by messing with these. Okay, what else? Oh, precision targeting mode. Okay, so we'll show this in the video for sure, but when you're going into precision targeting mode, for this, it's left alt and mouse button 2, and basically it just blows up your HUD to a kind of a big screen, and you're just staring at this target, and your gimbals will adjust and fire at the target you're shooting at better. But because you're having much more guidance with shooting the ship that you're shooting, you will fire at half the speed. If you have repeaters or Gatlings going on, they will fire at half the speed, which is still pretty decent. You have cannons, I mean, it's going to fire twice as slow. So, but the trade-off being it should be more accurate, and you kind of have a zoomed in view, and it gives you a lot of stuff around your HUD as well to view. So play with precision targeting mode and see if you like it, because it's a pretty cool new feature. What else? Missiles. Of course, you have to be in missile operator mode to fire missiles. You launch them with mouse button 1. You cycle the missile types, mouse button 2. You increase your number of missiles with G. And I just cycle through G, boom, back to 1. Shields and countermeasures. To use a flare, what it's called in this game is a decoy, it's the H button of the key. That will break a lock of all 3 types of missiles, IR, EM, and cross section. You can fire one at a time on your flares. They don't come out as soon as you press H. You have to wait a second, or you can increase the burst size by right alt and H. You can fire like 3 at a time, 5 at a time, 6 at a time, or you can panic launch and fire them all at one time. 48 of them at once. You can fire your noise, which you have a very limited number of, which are basically your chaff. That should also help break locks of other missiles. So chaff can also hide you. If someone in a turret is targeting you, you can drop a chaff and they'll lose their turret. Pretty cool. You can raise your individual levels of your shields around your ship by using the number pad. That's pretty neat. Power triangle. This is a kind of a big one. There's basically 4 buttons on there. F5 will increase the power that goes to your guns. F6 will increase the power that goes to your engines, and F7 to your shields. F8 resets everything dead in the middle. So if you know, like, especially if you have like laser cannons, if you know you're going into a tough fight, you may want to have your shields recharge faster, or you may want a little bit more boost. So you can set shields and your engines up to where you'll have a little bit less firepower, but you'll be a little bit more defensive. Or vice versa, you could be less defensive, have less boost or something like that, and you can increase your guns, which will give you more battery capacity to give you a few more shots on your laser weapons, your rechargeable weapons, and it'll also let them recharge faster once they're completely depleted. Anything else in here that's worthwhile? It's not a complete basics video here, but I wanted to, I am talking about flight stuff. So U is power to your ship, I is your engines, O is your shields, P is your weapon. These will cycle power on all these things. And let's see your HUD. Talk with that. I think that's really about it for keybinds. So now I think we need to move into basically Arena Commander and test this stuff out. I highly recommend you use Arena Commander with whatever ship you have, especially if it's a combat ship, so you can get used to your ship, get the feel for it. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so we're now here at the main menu screen. Yes, let's go ahead and go into from Arena Commander. First off, if you're just practicing flying, go into offline mode. Get out of the race and just go to the free. The map doesn't really matter, but let's say we're gonna pick Dying Star, which I think is Pyro. Select the ship. Say we'll go to, select the ship. There's our Gladius up here. Ship has 3 guns, 2 lasers on the wings, and so talk about our basic flight mechanics. Go ahead and launch. Okay, so I have different, even though I picked the Gladius, different things show up here on the left. Slot 3, we're going to set it as the Aegis Gladius. And we'll go ahead and deploy. Okay. Now we're in game. And let me get off of a bright section of the screen here. So, basic flight controls, right? We're going to hit W for thrust. S to go backwards. See, we're actually moving backwards. You can tell by the dust on the screen. So I am in coupled mode. Let's go over the elements of the HUD. Over here on the left, we have VTOL, coupled mode, enhanced stick precision, and landing gear. Up here is your thruster and boost indicator. Over here is what tells you what master mode you're in. This happens to be SCM guns mode. This is my current throttle. These are my signatures. So up here, this is my IR signature of 8411, and the background IR that I'm around is a 0. That means I can't hide in this. If there's a background infrared that's higher than my infrared, I am not going to show up. I'm going to be stealthed. This middle section is your cross section, and that is 8654. You have 3 parts of your cross section: the front of your ship, the side of your ship, and the top of your ship. So it depends on what direction you're facing, as if your cross section is going to ping for something. But it does show the biggest number, and I have no background cross section. And then the last one over here is your EM, or your electromagnetic signature. It is a 5350 something, background of 0, and it's going down. It will stop eventually. It'll only go down so far, but if I throttle up, you can see that it does go up, and then it's coming down as I'm slowing down. If I go over to the right side of my HUD, notice that G-Safe is on here, and it's telling me how many G's I'm pulling and what part of 3-dimensional space I'm moving. Your hydrogen and quantum fuel indicators, whether your gimbals are locked, your total amount of decoys or flares, your total amount of chaff or your noise, whether I'm in staggered fire and auto targeting. Then moving up, and these are my weapons. So on my Panther laser repeaters, I have 83 shots before they need to recharge, and on my Mantis ballistic Gatling gun, I have 2133 total rounds before that thing is depleted. Once it's gone, it's gone. It doesn't recharge. It's like ballistics would. And then I have my center reticle. So you can see that little line moving out as I'm moving up and down on the ship. That is the V-joy that we talked about earlier. If I'm going to move forward, I'll hit C and engage my cruise control. Coming back over here, yeah, you can see, hey, I'm doing 225 meters a second. That is my SCM speed for the Gladius. Okay, I'm going to turn off cruise control. Notice if I hold down X, my boost is also on when I'm doing this. Your boost appears over here in the kind of the right corner. And I can boost forward as well. I really like the sound of the boost. It sounds really good. Notice I'm still moving to the right. And now I'm quickly slowing down. So if you can see that thing in the middle of the screen, it looks like two less than and a greater than sign moving around in the center of the screen by the reticle. That kind of tells you, that's your TVI. That tells you what direction your ship is heading in. And then this thruster indicator will tell you if you actually have thrust going somewhere in any engine. So if we go to the outside shot here, I engage forward thrust. You can see my back engines are actually thrusting until I hit speed, and then that kind of slows down. If I'm going to engage retro thrust or hit X, notice my retro thrusters are firing until I come down to a stop. And that is while we are in coupled mode. If we turn off coupled mode, notice I turned this guy off right here, left alt and C by default, and we engage forward thrust, and I stop and I let go. Well, ship is still moving. I'm not giving it any thrust inputs, but it is still moving. If I go ahead and turn my ship to the right, notice the direction of the rocks. They're still going in the direction I was going in. So I could literally keep going in that forward direction, but turn my ship around and fire behind me while I'm still moving away from my target. That's basically what coupled mode does. My TBI is down here right there showing which direction I'm going. If I want to change direction in coupled mode, I would input forward thrust and my TBI moves over. Then I could spin my ship around, shoot over here, then go back to where I was going, or just give it different thrust inputs. So one last time, if I'm heading towards this rock right here, I want to shoot this target right here, but I don't want to change the direction I'm flying, I can do that. I'm still flying in this direction. If I want to change that, I need to thrust in a different direction. So we'll go ahead and turn couple mode back on. If I change out into my master mode, I'm gonna, well, first off, let's go to the next missile or next mode. I'm gonna hit my middle mouse button. Now I'm in missile mode. It shows me how many missiles I have on the right side up here. I have 8 marksman ones. If I click my right mouse button, it'll cycle to a different missile. These are ignite size 2s. And then I can cycle again. If I hit G on the keyboard, I can, hey, there's 2 missiles that are gonna fire. Now 3 missiles that are going to fire. You can't fire your missiles until they're fully charged up. Now I can fire 4 at once, and then it cycles back. This red indicator tells me my range of my missile. For the size 1s, I can go from 12.5 kilometers to 0.7 kilometers. If I change my missile, the size 2s, 8.3 kilometers to 1.1 kilometers. That varies depending on the missile. If I hit my master mode one more time, my operator mode one more time, I go into scan mode. Scan mode, I can move my ship around and scan and look for things in the bursts, rocks, ships, things like that. One more time and I'm back into guns mode. Left mouse button shoots my lasers. Notice those panthers are going down in the upper right corner up here. And if I right mouse button, that shoots my main mantis gun in the front. I can hit both buttons and fire all weapons at once. Sometimes your especially your ballistic guns, they will bring up a heat charge. When it fills all the way up and stops, but you can't shoot your gun again until the heat fully dissipates. If you stop before that, you can still shoot your gun the whole time, even though the heat still has some heat on. So be mindful of where you're at, and the audio warnings will tell you, because you're probably not going to be paying. I do have multi-function displays on the Gladius here. I have 4 in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I do have a lot of light on them right now. Let's get some. We're gonna find some darkness. There we go, so you can see them a little bit better. Up here, I have my ship status indicator that shows me my shields, my ship, my EM and my IR signature. Over here is my target display. This is actually what I want up here. These are the 2 displays I use the most. Those are the ones I want to see. Down here to the bottom right is my shields. I can tell, if my shields are taking damage, what part of them are taking damage. And bottom right is my power triangle. And these are the 4 screens I would want basically at all times. I can move my power triangle by doing this, or I can just hit F8, reset my power triangle. I can give myself more weapons. I can give myself more engines, or I can give myself more shields, or a balance between them. So you gotta make sure your power triangle is set the way you want it to. The way I looked down there was I held F and I moved my mouse down, and then I can see things. You can also just hit Z. You have free look. Hit Z again and you go back to controlling your ship. If you hold Z and look down, you'll quickly look and see something. You can let go and you're back to control your ship. Or you can get a Toby or some kind of a face tracker. Even a webcam will work, and you can move your head up and down, and it'll move your head in the game. Moving out of the SCM master mode into quantum master mode, I'm going to hold down the B button. Notice I'm changing into nav mode, and this bar is charging up. Once it's charged, I'm in nav mode. Notice my shields went down. I have no shields now, but we were limited to about 200 SCM, 200 speed in SCM. I can go way faster in quantum mode. It's by default, it's set at 500, but I can use my mouse wheel and scroll up. And now I can go much, much faster. Oh, I'm about to get kicked out of the simulation. So I need to change the direction I'm going in. Notice I blacked out. When I boost, my G-Safe gets turned off. So you can definitely black out by doing that. Hopefully I'll get back in the simulation before it kicks me out. And I'm going as fast as the ship can actually go. So I'm back in the simulation. And now the blood is normal to me. If you looked over here at G-Safe and 0 Gs, when I boost, the G-Safe goes off. When I make a maneuver, that's a 5G maneuver right there. Right there. Oh, that's 9 Gs, right? That'll determine if you're going to black out or not. And you'll actually start to black out. So the fastest the ship can move is 1,200 meters a second. Normally, when you're in the game, you have a bunch of target indicators or quantum indicators. You turn that off by hitting the middle mouse button, and you go from nav quantum to nav flight. Notice with G-Safe on, and I move my ship in 180 degrees, and it's moving all my thrusters around. I'm breathing harder. I'm at 13 Gs, and I'm getting close to blacking out, but I'm not actually blacking out. And as I'm pulling 11 Gs, 10, and then I'm back to 0 Gs, because we're going in the same direction we kind of meant to be going the whole time. If you do this in third person, you can still black out and get into G-Lock. You just won't see a black screen. You'll just be control locked. You can't move controls if you're unconscious. You can also mess with your speed down here. I can increase it and lower it with my scroll wheel on my mouse. And if I hit the middle mouse button one more time, I'll go into nav scan mode. If I want to get to my speed I set faster, I'll hold down space break. I can actually slow down even further. And because I hit space brake, I turned off my cruise control. I can hit C to turn it back on. And we're back going the way we go. Okay, so that's like basic flight, right? You should be in this mode to figure out the things you like. Notice my shields are down, by the way. To get them back on, hold down B, go back into SCM mode. In SCM, now I can fight. I can use my guns, my shields. I get out of scan mode, go to guns. My shields are back. It's back to being a normal fighting game. This is where you're gonna fight at. This is normal speed in SCM. If I boost, I can go above that to about 417. Well, maybe even higher. And go even higher to about 500. Yep, 500 on the dot. That is my boost speed of the ship. So almost double when it's in boost. All right, so now that we are practicing our flight here and we're done flying around, I guess, and you've gotten your control set up, your stick set up, your mouse, keybinds, all that kind of stuff that you like. Now maybe it's time to practice an Arena Commander before wasting your ships in the PU. So let's go back out to the main menu, go back into Arena Commander and see what we can do. Stay tuned. Okay, so we're here at the main menu. Let's go back into Arena Commander, go to offline mode, and we'll do just say like Pirate Swarm, right? Doesn't really matter what ship you're going to pick here unless you want a specific load. And this is basically just me playing against. So we'll grab the Gladius. We're in some map, I guess, and we'll go ahead and deploy the pirate. So we start off in SCM mode. Game's gonna start here in 1 second, and we're waiting for targets to show up on radar. There we go, and we can see them on our radar right down here, and we have some wingmen coming up. So I'm going to hit T to target Uriel. You can see he's in a Reliant Tana. I'm just going to shoot my guns at him. I have my lead pips set up. And I can just... You want to get to about 500 meters or closer if you can before you fire. So now I'm trying to fire all my guns. You want to roll into the target and to try to have them always be moving in the up position. You have better thrusters on the bottom of your ship, so you have more control authority here. So roll around that target. You don't want to fight in a left and right strafe or a down strafe if you can avoid it. Sometimes you can't avoid it though. And see, now he's just flying basically straight around. I'm back strafing a little bit. I'm boosting from time to time to get into range. I can see his shields are out on my MFD. I don't want to fight in a down strafe. I'm much more agile than he is in this fighter since I'm in a light fighter. And I want to do enough damage to him to soft death him, just like that. So now he's gone. We'll hit T and target the next guy, Day Rappaport. I'm going to bring up some missiles. I'm in my missile range right here. And I want to stay in it, and I have 2 missiles spooled up. I'm going to left click and see if those missiles hit him. Looks like they didn't. My missiles are recharging right now. Really, 5 kilometers out is a good place for missiles. Those missiles hit him, but they didn't look like they did a lot of damage. I'm gonna cycle over to Ignite 2s. I'm gonna boost around to try to get some speed on him. Maybe I'll boost past him and then turn around. And as I'm turning around, I'm backstrafing at the same time. I want to try to get into missile range, which is 1.1 kilometers. And there we go, missile lock. Firing those missiles. Boosting forward. Looks like those missiles are not going to hit him. So it's time to switch to guns. And let's do a gunfight with him. So I'm keeping those small lead and lag pips on there. Let me see if I can change my pip size. Boom, I hit the button to change my pip size and they got much bigger. It's a regular Aurora LN. So the pip size small, pip size big. It depends on what you want for your pip size. Don't like fighting him in the side strafe. He's not moving a lot there. And there's a kill. So it looks like there's one guy left at Yozo Ricard. I'll go ahead and switch into missile mode. I have 2 size 2s left. He is locked, he's in range. I want to get to about 5K before I shoot him off. And shoot. Now from here, it's a Reliant Tana. And see, he just boosted out of my range. I'm gonna have to retarget him. If I hit R, it's not going to target anything on him. There's nothing special. Well, there is sub-targets on him. If we look at my MFD, sub-target is his guns right now. If I hit R again, main thruster. It's really hard to see that sub-target. Guns, guns, shield generators. So now I have his shield generators sub-targeted. If I go into precision targeting mode, which for me is left alt and mouse button 2, I think. Oh, I gotta be in gun mode. This is precision targeting mode. So it'll fire slower. Notice how it's firing slower. But my gimbal, I really need to just train on the ship. My gimbals are gonna try to hit, basically I think his shield generator. This is really useful for large targets. But I guess you can fly around in this all day long if you wanted to. My TBI is visible. It enhances my HUD. Zoom is 10. But hitting R, it doesn't actually tell me. I can boost. I can do all the things I would normally do. You see my V-Joy going crazy there. I can't see his ship damage. As I hit R, it's still moving the sub-targets around as well. And you can see what's highlighted right there on the sub-targets. I think it's maybe his engines. But this is a pretty cool new mode to be in. Let's see if we can blow him up in this mode. Oh, there's a big rock. It's hard to have the spatial awareness in this mode, and now he's just kind of sitting there. We're just trading blows. So with fast shooting weapons like this, I guess I don't prefer it. Let's switch out to regular mode here. I'm going to turn on my precision lines. You see those little lines that showed up on the pip? It kind of tells me the direction that he's going. So that may be able to help me form a better angle. If you can get those up and down so I can use my bottom thrusters of my ship better, that would be better. I'm trying to... Yeah, there we go. Now he's gone. Looks like there is another guy. Don't want to shoot my teammate. We'll see if we can get some missiles to shoot this time. Maybe, maybe not. We'll wait for all 4 to spool up. Boom, all 4 missiles are gone. And I'm completely out of missiles. And he wasn't moving real fast. You can boost and roll and pitch and yaw, and it'll give you a little bit more authority in those spaces as well. Ooh, and he's gone. Okay. I got a little fuel from killing that guy. So I think that showcases some good combat, I guess, in Arena Commander. Let me know what you guys think about this. It's a really good place to practice, right? So that 2K, even though I have a pip, that's too far away to engage, right? I can see this guy's moving around. Okay. Really about 500 meters or closer is what you want to engage with him. And if you want a more in-depth guide to fighting, especially like PvP and stuff like that, go look up Avenger 1. He has some really good videos. There's a ton of dogfighting videos all over YouTube about master modes and some other specifics to master modes. See, I can boost and kind of max his turns, but in PvE, it works a little differently than fighting PvP players. I do want to get in closer to him, so don't be afraid to use your boost. Don't be afraid to mess with your power triangle. Ammo's okay. My ammo's gone on my Gatling, and this, honestly, this is like super low risk and it's fun. So don't forget to use Arena Commander. Boom! There he goes. All right, trying to boost out. Now let's say my shields are down. All these guys are shooting me. I have no wingman. One thing I can do is go into my nav mode. It takes a second to spool up, and I can try to boost away from him and speed away. Once I'm sped away from him, I can switch back into SCM mode. Hopefully my shields have enough time to recharge, and then see, I'm 12 clicks away from him. And now I can come back into the fight with replenished shields. So, this is fighting with a Gladius, which is a light fighter. Let's go back to the menu. And let's, I guess, check out a medium fighter. Back into Arena Commander. Offline. We'll do Pirate Swarm again. Launch. Medium fighters typically have more guns. Some of them have bigger missiles. We'll swap out the Hornet Mark 1 and let's see, what's it? I guess we're really gonna have to go Anvil. The Arrow is the light fighter. We'll go with the F7A Hornet. Brand new ship. Yeah, it looks like we're at SPK. So not a lot of debris or rocks floating around in here. Notice I have laser cannons, and then I have a ballistic repeater over there. So we will, okay, here's a target up here. He is in a Reliant Tana. So I'm gonna shoot my laser cannons. They fire slower. Turn on my bigger pip. They fire a little bit slower, but look how much more damage that did. Wow. Way more damage, right? Okay, let me find a Kiru Montoya. We'll switch over to missiles. We're under 5K, we're gonna fire. We're gonna switch over to guns. We're gonna go a little further. I'll use my ballistic repeaters. These are size 4s. They bypass shields all the way. They go straight to the hull. Boom. He's gone. Difference between a medium and a light fighter, for sure. When I target this guy, I'm going to use both weapons. Laser cannons trying to take down his shields and do damage, plus the laser repeaters. A little bit far away doing that. It's an Aurora, so it may be a little bit quicker on some turns. Shield's already gone. Okay, we're at 800K, so my spread is really far, but he's gone. All right, this guy's 2.5 clicks away. Whoa! Saw a guy flying around there. And the gun's just really, really powerful here. Let's go into precision mode. So you notice how I'm firing slower? But my gimbals are targeting him better. We can still boost in this mode. And I guess try to keep him centered. Okay. And he's gone. And we got our wrench. So that is a medium fighter, much more damaging, a little more survivability. If you look over here, our decoys and our noise and all that stuff, I will go ahead and launch. Go ahead and launch some chaff, or I'm sorry, some flare. And that flare is basically to prevent missiles. If I launch a noise, that is a chaff right there. So that's kind of what that looks like. It's kind of awesome looking. But let's go back and let's grab a heavy fighter. Back to menu. Okay, so now I keep having issues with recording. Now we are back and a heavy fighter. We're gonna go back into Arena Commander, go offline, change it to Pirate Swarm, and launch. What's the advantage of having a heavy fighter like the RSI Scorpius? Out. It usually has more survivability. It'll last longer in a fight. It'll either have bigger guns, or more missiles. There's only so many heavy fighters in the game, like the Vanguard series, the Scorpius. Let's go with the Anvil F8C Lightning. Boy, this guy. Notice it has 8 guns over here. It has laser repeaters, and it has 2 different kinds, size 3s and size 2s, same ammo count. And it has 2 different kinds of ballistic cannon, Tarantula 3, Tarantula 2. So I'm probably going to have 2 different types of pips. As we get closer, we'll actually load up our missiles. We have 8 Ignite 2 missiles. So we're going to go ahead and fire our missiles. No idea if those are going to hit. Doesn't look like they are. We're going to boost towards our target. All right, from here, we're going to fire all of our weapons.
Shields hit.
Shields are hit. But this thing can take a lot of damage and keep on going. So again, we're going to try to keep him in the configuration of going up. We're going to roll with the target.
Forward proximity alert.
And now we're backstrafing a little bit. We're going to roll around again. We're going to boost. This guy can outmaneuver me. So you may have to add a little backstrafe in from time to time. But head to head, we're going to take that guy out. He's going straight at me. All right. Now this is an Aurora LN. We'll just use the laser cannons. I'm sorry, we'll use the ballistic cannons this time.
Forward proximity alert.
And if we can... Oh, he's a little frustrating. He's a little more maneuverable. So backstrafing. Okay, we're going to use our boost to come around a little bit. He's taken some damage already. You can see he's red on the MFD. Again, ballistics bypass your shields, but there is a damage reduction on ships. Boom, and he's gone. Okay, on the next one, we'll use just our laser repeaters, which have a very fast fire rate. A little too far away to engage that guy. We're two clicks. Here we go. Some other guys are shooting me. See, his shields got stripped away really fast. I'm backstrafing forward. Now I'm going forward. Trying to Keep rolled into him. This is just the laser repeaters. They're doing damage, but not as much as ballistics would do.
Destroyed.
And he's gone.
Proximity alert.
Another one bites the dust. Okay, there's one more here. Use boost and maneuver around a little bit. Okay, this guy is in a Reliantana. We will use precision targeting. Hopefully not crash into a rock. We're not super far away from him. Okay, we're getting closer to 500. You see why I don't necessarily love this mode? We're back boosting because head to head, I have this guy because I'm in a heavy fighter. Okay, and boom. So there's a heavy fighter in the game. Took really no damage at all. Not sure if we can ever get a missile kill here. Missiles don't work well in this patch for some reason. Not that they've ever really worked well, but big slow targets, they work really well. So why are those missiles going all the way up and around? And that Gladius can outturn me very easily as a light fighter. Do a precision target. He's engaged in a different target. This is why it helps to have those wingmen up there. He's a little far away to engage, but just trying to showcase the precision targeting. The gimbals really try to get on this guy. You can predict kind of where he's going to be. Roll into him. Didn't I tell you guys I wasn't the greatest dogfighter? We'll come out of that mode. Notice how much faster the weapons fire in this mode. If you're going to have fast firing weapons, you might want to stay in this mode, unless you're fighting like a hammerhead or something. Notice I had heat buildup over here in my tarantulas. They cooled down, so I was able to keep firing. All right, so back to living. Okay, so we went over a lot of the talking points I wanted to. Now I think we're going to take a look at Erkul.Games and I'm going to go from there a little bit. I guess talk about loadouts of ships, because that matters in a dog. There's a little bit more of a meta right now in 3.3, so let's check out what that looks like. Stay tuned. Well, folks, so we are back at the loadout kind of section. We're going to compare some of these ships for dogfighting. This is the same ships we used in the video. So first up, we have the Gladius, and the first thing I want to do is we're going to talk about kind of the ship stats and compare them, right? I imagine if you're doing a lot of dogfighting, at least the mission part of it, you're going to be using combat oriented ships, not so much like you're not going to take your vulture, your salvaging ship out on dogfighting missions. That should be pretty obvious. But regardless of that, I think using this website, Erkul.Games, link in the description below, is a big part of figuring out how you want to do things, especially in this patch, and how you want to set up your ship to match your playstyle, if that makes sense. So let's get right into it. Let's take a look at some of the stats for the Aegis Gladius. First off, it's a light fighter. It's a combat career, size 2 ship, crew size of 1. So these are all solo ships, by the way. You can have other ships that are bigger, right? Like a Cuddy has a crew of 2, things like that, like a Vanguard. But these are all solo ships. First thing we're going to look at is our SCM speed of 225 meters a second. That's pretty good. That's pretty fast. Now, this is a light fighter, so it's really maneuverable. SCM of a boost SCM speed of 500 meters a second and a boost backward speed of 260 meters a second. That's the back strafing I was talking about. That's boosting backwards, right? Normally you'd just be doing 225. But if you use boost, you use those retro thrusters with boost, you can go backwards a little bit faster than you would normally just go forward. But essentially for all these ships, your main thrust is in the engines in the back, like an airplane would be. So that's where most of your boost going forward is going to be. While there is room for back strafing in Star Citizen, you're better off turning and rolling into your turns than you are necessarily back strafing. But I would say that's typical against other people. Like in PvP, if you're doing PvE, the computer does weird maneuvers. They're not standard. They will just stop and shoot you. So back strafing in order to get a missile lock, or side strafing around in a kind of a weird circle of death is, in my view, acceptable as long as you're not getting beat up too bad. It also has a maximum navigational speed, or quantum speed, right? Nav speed of 1200 meters a second. So let's compare that to the medium fighter, the Hornet F7A Mark II. So SCM speed of 225. The Hornet is a little bit faster. It's the Mark II of 233. When we look at the boost speed, the Gladius is 500. The Hornet is 503. So these are pretty comparable numbers. They're not crazy in between, right? The boost backward of the Gladius is 260. The Hornet's 259, right? The maximum navigational speed, 1200 to 1170. So still, everything's pretty on par with each other. Let's go to the heavy fighter, the F-8C Lightning. Again, solo ship. This is a heavy fighter. Its SCM speed is 210. Gladius is 225. Its boost speed is 450. Gladius is 500. The boost backwards 220. Gladius is 260. So the Gladius overall and the Hornet are faster ships, right? The max nav speed 1100. I think the Gladius is 1200, and the Hornet's 1170. So overall, speed-wise, the F-8C is slower, but not incredibly slower. But it could be slower enough not to. It just makes it a little more difficult to fly. It could be slower enough not to get into that turn and be able to get behind somebody. The big difference between these light, medium, and heavy fighters is their pitch, yaw, and roll rates. So up here on the Gladius, its regular pitch, yaw, and roll is 70 degrees pitch, 52 yaw, 200 roll, right? Obviously the roll's going to be faster. You can also use boost to give more power to the thrusters to be able to pitch, yaw, and roll faster, right? You just have to use afterburner when you do it. Puts a little more into the thruster. So, but we'll just go off the basic numbers. 70, 52, 200. The medium fighter is 59, 47, 156. So significantly less pitch, yaw, and roll. And then when we look at the heavy fighter, 38, 32, 120 degrees. So that maneuvering, being able to out-turn your opponents and out-roll them, out-pitch them, out-yaw them, and combine together with 6 degrees of freedom, even with boost on, is going to be really the difference between those light, medium, and heavy fighters. The light fighters are going to be much more agile, more maneuverable. They're going to be able to move around the battle space faster. Medium fighters is right in between. The heavy fighters are slower. The trade-off, because Star Citizen's all about trade-offs, is going to be that your heavy fighter is either going to be able to take more damage. We'll go over that in just a sec. It'll have better shields, or it may have more weapons or more missiles available to it, and that could be a big difference. For instance, while this F-8C Lightning has 8 guns on it, which is a lot of guns, it only has 8 missiles. Let me duplicate this and bring up a different heavy fighter. And we'll bring up the RSI Scorpius, which is a heavy fighter. It only has 4 guns, right? But look at how many missiles it has. 4, 8, 12, 16. 16 missiles compared to 8. Not necessarily better or worse, because missiles suck in this patch as they have in previous patches, but it's a difference. So we'll keep the Scorpius up there. Notice the Scorpius pitch, the speed 220 SEM, 590 in boost, so really good boost forward. I believe it's because of this. Does that have 4 engines? It might have 4 engines. The backwards boost is okay, and the max nav speed is actually really fast, but it's pitch yaw roll 38, 35, 140. So it's faster than the F8C in moving around, but it's still slow enough to where the Hornet and the Gladius are going to be able to outmaneuver it. So going back to the Gladius, let's take a look at its hit points. 7,160 hull hit points. That's how much damage the hull can take. We don't really have an accurate armor damage system in the game. It's accurate, but we don't have the armor system. So basically you have hit points assigned to different parts of your hull. In Erkul and in SP Performance Viewer, it'll tell you what parts of your hull have what hit points. In SP Performance Viewer, link in the description below, it tells you what components, what parts of your hull are critical. And if you damage those, you may not be flying anymore. So, but in total, 7,160 hull hit points. When we look up the Mark II, the medium fighter, 20,000 hull hit points. So a huge difference there, right? Over double the hull hit points. Almost triple the hull hit points. Now, granted, the Mark II is kind of the meta for this patch, but almost triple the hull hit points. The F8C Lightning, 46,350 hull hit points. So it can take a licking and keep on ticking like a Timex, right? Over double that of a medium fighter, right? So we're talking 6 times the amount of a light fighter. So this thing can really take some damage and keep on going. Let's look at the Scorpius, another heavy fighter, 43,660 hull hit points. So again, that's the big difference, right? What do you want to play? Do you want to play that light fighter that's super agile, but sort of a glass cannon, but has the maneuverability, the speed? Do you like that speed? Do you like being able to outmaneuver your opponents? But you got to be careful not to get hit. In this patch, it's much easier to get hit in master modes because you're slowed down. You're not moving as fast. So that's taken into consideration. Then again, when you have a heavy fighter like a Scorpius or a Lightning, you're not going to outturn a lot of your opponents unless they're, especially fighters, right? Medium or heavy fighter, you're not going to outturn them. So you're going to take more hits. You need those extra hull hit points. What is the middle road? And my favorite fighter is the medium fighter, kind of the best of both worlds. You can take some damage and still keep on going. You have survivability. You also have a weapons loadout that does a lot of damage. And you have the maneuverability that's kind of in between. It's for me, it's the middle ground, and it's jack of all trades, best of both worlds type of thing. So that's why I like the medium fighters the best. Okay, back to the Gladius. If we look at other minutia like inventory capacity, 0.65, what's its inventory? It doesn't give the inventory of the Hornet. The Lightning at 0.65, right? So internal storage is pretty much the same. They're all very small. And then the dimensions of the craft themselves, right? The Gladius is a small craft versus the Hornet, which is bigger, and versus the F8 Lightning, which isn't that much bigger, but it's bigger, right? And it weighs more, so it's a little bit slow, even though weight shouldn't matter in space. It's going to take more thrust to get it moving, even though weight is not a thing. It's a video game, right? There has to be rules in this thing about how things perform. Okay, and then some other little things are sometimes quantum fuel and hydrogen fuel matter. The Hornet is horrible on fuel right now, but the Gladius has the standard hydrogen of 135,000 liters, 671 quantum fuel. The Hornet has more in both scenarios. No, it has less quantum fuel, but it has more hydrogen fuel. And the Lightning has way more hydrogen fuel and way more quantum fuel. There's not a great reason for that. If it does have 2,500 quantum fuel, then you should be able to fit a much faster quantum drive on it and still be able to get to wherever you need to go. versus the Scorpius is a smaller ship, so it has kind of the standard quantum fuel capacity. There's little idiosyncrasies in between the ships that make them unique, make them cool, and maybe that's what you want to fly. We were talking about earlier in the video that there is damage absorption from your ballistic rounds that hit other ships. For instance, the Gladius down here it's 50% negative. Negative 50% physical damage reduction. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to take less damage when it gets hit. 50% of your bullets are not going to actually register damage. It is for the Hornet, it has 55% physical damage reduction. That simulates the armor system. It also has increased EM signature and 3% energy damage increase for some reason. So this is all about balancing. Excuse me, the Lightning is negative 54 physical damage reduction, and the Scorpius is negative 53% negative physical damage reduction. So these ships take less physical damage. That's one of the weird things about this game, and it's in there for a reason. It's balancing purposes, things like that. So let's move on to weapons. First off, the Gladius has 3 size 3 mounts, right? And they're each on a gimbal. Everything's on a gimbal now, except for very few weapons in the game, like an Ion or an Inferno. But it has 3 size 3 weapons mounted to it on the Gladius. One each is a Panther CF337 laser repeater. So the laser repeater, and I've probably said things wrong in the video, like a ballistic repeater and things. Those are very fast shooting laser guns. If we click on this and just look at some of the stats on the Panther, we can see that it's sustained DPS, meaning not when you first hold down the button, but I mean sustained DPS over time is 225 damage. It has an alpha damage of 41, meaning each shot basically does 41 damage to whatever it's hitting, whether that's shields or whether that's the hull. If a spacecraft has shields, when a laser hits it, it will hit the shields first before it goes through the hull. To the hull. If a ballistic is used, it bypasses the shields because it's not energy based and it goes straight to the hull. That's the advantage of ballistics. The downside of ballistics is you have finite number of rounds. Trade-offs, once again, right? So the laser repeater, 41 alpha damage, 225 DPS, fire rate of 750, which is quite fast. And then the ammo speed, the actual speed of the laser beam is 1800 meters a second. And that kind of helps determine your pip. So if this ship's flying this way, you're flying this way to intercept, you're going to have to, your pip's going to be up here because you're going to have to shoot him up here. And by the time your lasers hit him, it's going to interact with that ship, right? Obviously, basic physics at work. If we look at the Mantis GT220 and ballistic Gatling, so anything with the Gatling is very fast shooting, but very low damage overall because there's so many rounds coming out. We can see it has a sustained and a burst damage of 507 DPS, which is really high because it bypasses shields. Granted, it has 2,000 rounds, but each shot, each bullet that hits does 19 alpha damage. Compared to the Panther, 41 alpha damage to 19 alpha damage. But again, it doesn't have to deal with shields. Fire rate for the Mantis is 1600 RPM. So it shoots really fast, over twice as fast as the Panther. And it has a ammo range of 2,608 meters. So you can engage that far out, but it also has a spread on it. And the spread's not crazy on this gun. It's 0.008 with the decay of 0.01 and a spread min max of 0.7/0.7. So that spread is when you're shooting something far away, your bullets aren't going to be exact to where you're firing, right? They're going to have a little bit of a cone going out. The closer you are to the ship you're shooting, the more, well, I guess not the cone will be tighter and you'll land more shots on the ship. So that's why when you're roughly, I would say from between 300 to maybe 700 meters away from a ship is probably that ideal firing arc for almost any gun in the game. When you're real far out, a lot of your shots probably aren't going to land on your target. Although you should see the hit animation, you know, when it hits the opposing ship, so you know you're hitting it. But if you fire close in, you're going to see way more of those. It may even blind you if you're in like really dark space because the lens flare in this pack is just insane. So just keep that in mind. On the Panther, the spread is 0.022 to 2 and 0.6. So the spread is about the same for these two things, for these two guns. So with a higher spread on the ballistic Gatling. So let's take this Panther out. Let's go to what is kind of the meta in 3.23 is a laser cannon, right? And we'll grab a side. Why it has size 2s up here, I don't know, but we'll grab the biggest boy on the block here, the M5A laser cannon. So the difference between the laser cannon and the laser repeater is the cannon fires significantly slower. And it does way more damage. So on the Panther, we have a fire rate of 750. On the cannon, we have a fire rate of 100 RPM. A whole 100, right? But the big difference being on the M5A, we have 506 alpha damage per shot. The Panther has 41. That's a huge difference, but a lower fire rate. It has a sustained DPS, the M5A, of 449 sustained DPS versus the Panther of 190. The spread on the M5A, well, first off, the range is 2,600 meters. Panther's range is about the same, 2,592. The spread on the M5A is 0.3 versus the Panther at 0.6. So the Panther has higher spread. And that makes sense because it's going faster. You also have less ammo count in the M5A. So you can only shoot 17 shots in the M5A, and where you have 63 shots in the Panther. However, the time it takes to fire those 63 shots on the Panther is up here. It says 63 ammos in 8.13 seconds. Well, on the laser cannon, you can shoot 17 shots in 8.22 seconds. So those are, I mean, you're not going to notice a tenth of a second. Those are roughly the same time periods. In about 8 seconds, you're going to shoot the full load of laser cannon or laser repeater until your lasers have to recharge. If you're accurate, you're not wasting your shots by being too far away or just not hitting the pip correctly, your laser cannon is going to do way more damage, over double damage than the Panther laser repeater. It's slower and it's not as satisfying as the laser repeater. It's not as Star Warsy, but it is significantly more damage and, in my opinion, better. So when you hop over to Erkul, you can check out the stats for these different guns. And when you play around on Arena Commander or you play around in the PU, you can find out what flight style, what weapon style you like the best. Do you like the slower shooting guns? Do you like the faster shooting guns? Play how you want to play. It's your game, your money, right? But you need to understand that there's trade-offs in between all these weapons. And that's a good thing now that they're working better. So let's hop off a laser cannon and let's go up to a, a ballistic repeater and compare that against the ballistic Gatling. So the ballistic Gatling with a RPM of the fire rate of 1600. The repeater's still fast, but it's not nearly that fast. It has a fire rate of 500 RPM. It's still ballistic, so it's still going to go through the shields, right? The DPS of the Shredder is 675 sustained, so it is higher than the GT220, but it's firing slower. The ammo speed is 1200 meters a second. The Mantis ammo speed is 1600 meters a second, so Mantis has a faster bullet going through the air. The range on the Mantis is 2600. The range on the Shredder is 2600. The spread on the Shredder, 0.45. Spread on the Mantis, 0.7. So much less of a spread on the Shredder. It's also going slower, right? So, and it's firing slower. It doesn't tell us how many seconds it takes to completely empty it, but you're going to have a little bit of time now with the increased ammo counts. It's 1167 ammo counts versus 2133 ammo. But again, the Mantis fires faster. So when all these numbers are taken into account, that kind of is how they come up with the DPS. But do you like a slower firing weapon? Let's hop off the Shredder here and let's go up to a ballistic cannon, like a big one. We'll grab the Tarantula. Actually, we'll just grab the Deadbolt. The Deadbolt 3 ballistic cannon fires real slow, and it only has 250 rounds compared to the Mantis, which has 2100 rounds. The Deadbolt has way less, but it's doing 330 something more DPS, right? What's the big difference here? The Mantis is doing 507 DPS, 19 alpha damage. The Deadbolt's doing 843 DPS, but each shot is 506 alpha damage. 506 compared to 19, right? So each shot counts more. Fire rate, 100 RPM, so fires really slow. Ammo speed is even slower. It's 900 meters a second. It has a spread of 0.3, so it's at less spread. The range is 2600. That's about even throughout all the ranges of these guns. So take all these things into consideration when you're trying to figure out what guns you want on your ship. To go over the last few guns on here, we'll get rid of the Mantis. We'll throw on a ballistic scattergun like the Predator. That is your shotgun, basically. It has 840 DPS and 840 alpha damage, but the spread of this thing is 4. Oh, way higher spread, right? And that makes sense. When you shoot a shotgun, if you shoot someone with a shotgun up close and personal, you're going to do a ton of damage because all those little pellets are going to hit in a nice tight cone. You shoot someone, 300 yards away, maybe you'll have a couple pellets hit them, right? And maybe you'll get lucky, but distance matters with the scatter guns. They do a ton of damage up close. They don't do as much damage further away, but probably some of those pellets are going to hit even further away. So keep that in mind. I don't know if each pellet that hits does 840 alpha. I don't think so. I think that's every pellet hitting, but that's basically how that works. Let's throw it with, there's also a laser scattergun. So we'll throw on a Dominance 3, which has even more, well, it has comparable DPS, 808 sustained DPS compared to the Predator, but 1240 alpha damage. The Predator has 840 alpha damage. The Dominance 3 is nice because it recharges, right? And it still takes 8 seconds to fire all 27 laser rounds, and then it recharges. The speed is 1,000 meters a second. The Predator is have a speed of 1,000 meters a second. The spread on the Dominance 3 is 4. The spread on the Predator is also 4. The range is 2,000 meters, so less range on the laser. Excuse me. On the laser shotgun than the ballistic shotgun, I believe. The ballistic shotgun range is it's 2,000 meters to so it's the same. So my fault on that. It's the same range, but it is closer than the other guns. The other guns are roughly 2,600 meters. Pick your poison, figure out what you want to do with these weapons. I'll reset back to normal. If we pull up the Hornet Mark II, we can see that this guy has way more guns, right? It has 2 size 3s on the nose turret, 2 size 3s on the ball turret, so that's 4. Those are size 3 guns, so 4 size 3 guns. And then it has a size 4 Remnant ballistic Gatling, which is where the ballistic Gatlings get fun, is size 4. It has 1 on each wing. So that's a total of 6 guns for a medium ship. That's a lot. These Omni Sky 9s are laser cannons. So if you saw in the video, I blew away that target like really fast in Pirate Swarm. Because these Omni Sky 9s do 500 DPS, right? That is a ton of damage. Ammo range 2600, alpha damage is 270, right? And there's 4 of those guns going off at once, right? So that's a lot of alpha damage at once. The Revenant, which is a fun ballistic Gatling, it shoots really fast, 1200 rounds per minute, does 63 damage per shot. So a big difference between the Mantis and the Revenant, right? The alpha damage on the Mantis was 19. The Revenant is 63, right? So the DPS on the Revenant is much better. Like I said, size 4 ballistic Gatlings is really where things get interesting. But let's say you didn't want a ballistic Gatling. You wanted something to fire slower to kind of match your laser cannons, right? Because your laser cannons are firing slower. So you can throw a ballistic cannon on there. You can throw C88, a C788, a Deadbolt 4. You can throw some size 3s on there if you want. I would stick with the maximum size weapon you can get. But you see where the C788 says 271 DPS. That's really low. I'm not sure if this gun got nerfed or what, but it has 100 rounds compared to the Revenant at 22,000 rounds, which obviously it's firing slower. Fire rate is 50 versus the Revenant, which is fire rate is 1200. Alpha damage is 325 compared to the Revenant at 63. So each shot matters more. I don't remember if the 788 needed to be charged before it shoots or something similar. I know there's kind of a weird charge mechanic, but we can grab the Deadbolt 4 in comparison. 759 damage per shot versus the Revenant at 63 alpha damage. DPS is actually roughly the same, but again, pick your poison. What do you want to fire? When we look at a heavy fighter, we'll grab the F8C Lightning. This has 8 guns on it. It has a ton of guns. It's got on its turret 2 size 2 laser repeaters, and then it has 2 size 3 laser repeaters, and then it has a 2 size 3 ballistic guns, cannons, and then 2 size 2 ballistic cannons with the tarantulas. Mix and match these up. Figure out what you want, right? Come over to Erkul, look at the stats of these guns, figure out what you want to do. And just to do the Scorpius since we have it up, it has 4 size 3 guns. Pretty consistent. These are all laser repeaters. Throw those into laser cannons. You see our 960 DPS. Let's all change them to laser cannons. We'll just grab M5As. It'll also tell you, Erkul will tell you where you can buy all these parts and how much they cost as well. Our DPS goes up to 1708, right? So that's significant difference. The Scorpius, it says it does have a remote turret as well. We're not talking about the Antares here. I think it does have a remote turret. Anyway, then there's 4 more guns in a remote turret. Is that? Oh, I guess I didn't pick that. The Antares is the EMP ship, or yeah, it's more of an interdictor type of ship. So I think the Scorpius can have 2 people. It's been a while since I've actually flown a Scorpius with 2 people. So Scorpius can do even more damage because now it has 8 guns, right? But as a solo pilot, it has 4 guns. Pretty sure. Okay, back to, let's talk about missiles on the Gladius. Okay, the Gladius has a number of missile racks for a light fighter. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 size 3 missile racks. The way the missiles work on in-game and on Erkul is it says MSD, right? Missile, whatever, it's a missile rack that holds missiles. The 3 means it's a size 3. That's true for all of these. The 1 means it holds 1 missile. The next number is what size missile it holds. So it's MSD 1-3. So it's a size 3 launcher that holds 1 size 3 missile. In this case, 1 Arrestor 3. The next one is the same. The other 2 missile racks are a size 3 launcher that holds 2 size 2 missiles. So that's where it has 2 Ignite 2s on them. You can buy different missile racks. I can do a 3-4-1 that'll hold 4 size 1 missiles because it's a size 3 launcher. Set that. So you can change up these missiles depending on what you want. There's cross-section, infrared, and EM missiles. Some of them do different damage. All of them use different methods to lock onto a target. They either use the cross section of the target, the EM signature of the target, or the infrared signature of the target. All of those signatures can be defeated by either using decoys or flares. I don't particularly like the way missiles work in this patch. I don't think they're particularly effective. Because I do see missiles hit. They're much better against bigger, slower targets, but the size 1s are supposed to be, really size 2s, are supposed to be better against fighters. They're supposed to be smaller, more agile, but I just haven't seen a lot of good luck with those. Even in Arena Commander, where we're not worried about a million entities from the PU. So you can hop in here in Erkul and you can see, hey, the Arrestor 3 does 26 damage. The EMs do 3276 damage. The infrareds do different, like 3359 and 3219. These chaos missiles, those are Van Duel missiles. Pretty cool. They do the most damage. If you just want the most damage for a missile and you're willing to do infrared missiles, then do that. But they're more easily defeated with the flares or the decoys. Also, going down to the size 2s, if we pick the Bullet 2s or the Rattler 2s, the Rattler 2s are cluster missiles. They break off and there's a bunch of multiple missiles. That does significantly more damage than the Rattler 2s, right? In comparison to the rest. So the Gladius actually has a really good missile count. 6 missiles in total, not too bad for a light fighter. The Hornet has 8 missiles in total, and they all come stock with Ignite 2, infrared, size 2 missiles. The F-8C Lightning has 8 missiles. It has less missiles than you'd expect, but it has 8 guns, right, for a solo pilot. So it does have missile capability, but that's not the reason it's a heavy fighter. You can go over to the Scorpius, you see it has 16 missiles, right? So, and this little lock here on Erkul under the missile rack means it's bespoke. You can only have a 442 rack on here. You can't change the rack out like you can on a Gladius. But you can change out the missile types. They just all have to be size 2 missiles. Right? So you can pick what size 2 missile you want. You just can't pick the size of the missile rack itself. That is also true on the F-8C Lightning and the F-7A Hornet Mark II, but not on the Gladius. You can change those missile racks around. So let's move on to the other minutia of components of light, medium, heavy fighters. This light fighter in the Gladius, it has 2 size 1 shields. Shields in this pack are all equal. They're all the same. It doesn't matter if they are military or a civilian or whatever grade, a grade A, C, D, whatever. They're all the same hit points. They're all equalized. So every single size 1 shield in the game has 1500 hit points for that shield. Size 2 shield has 6000 hit points. And a size 3, I don't remember what a size 3 had. It has more than that, right? 9,000 or something. So the size 1 shield, the Gladius has 2 size 1 shields, giving it 3000 shield hit points. That matters. It's a light fighter, right? It can't have as big a components as a bigger fighter can have. The F-7A Mark II also has 2 size 1 shields. It has way more whole hit points, giving it higher survivability, but its shields are going to go down just as fast as a Gladius. You look at the F-8C, it has 2 size 2 shields, so that's a huge difference, right? You're going from 3000 shield hit points in your medium and light fighter in this comparison to 12,000 shield hit points. That's a huge difference. It's a bigger ship. It can fit bigger components. And the Scorpius has 1 size 2 shield. So, but again, more hit points in the Scorpius. And is the Scorpius more maneuverable than the F-8C? Not particularly. It's a little bit more maneuverable. It definitely goes faster. And you can have another, it looks like you can have someone in the turret. So there's so many ships in game, I forget what ships have what capabilities. So differences between these ships. You want 1 size 2? Do you want 2 size 2s? Power plants, not really going to matter. When it comes to power plants, I would just leave them stock. As long as you are, when you're looking at your gauge here on the kind of bottom left, the little power gauge, if you're at half or lower, you're fine. I wouldn't even bother messing with a better power plant. I believe some power plants have different capabilities. They'll give you different power outputs, and I believe the military ones, like say a JS 300, which is military grade A, I believe that guy can, if it gets shut down with an EMP, I believe the grade A's, especially the military ones, can reboot faster. I haven't done a lot of component review on components in this patch, but typically that's the way this thing works. Is one, it provides more power output, and two, it would reboot faster because it's of a higher quality. So if you get shut down with EMP, you would come back online faster. The component would recover faster. For coolers, same principle applies here. I wouldn't mess with it unless you are nearing or halfway or higher over your heat capacity. The Gladius comes with 2 military grade C bracer coolers, which seems fine. I think in the future that's going to be affected by what components you have on, and there'll be way more balancing in the future, but in this patch I wouldn't even worry about it. The only other thing I would recommend changing besides a specific weapon loadout that you want is your quantum drive. The Gladius here comes with a military grade C beacon, which is fast, 253 kilometers a second. However, it can't make a jump from ArcCorp to Microtech in one jump. You have to stop and go get gas. So even though it's faster, it takes longer to stop and go get gas, wait for fuel, hope you find a pad that actually will refuel you, get gas, and then re-quantum out. Because there is a length of time before you actually enter stage 2 of quantum, where you're going as fast as you can go. I would highly recommend you go to a civilian drive if you have a size 1 drive and just get a Voyage or an Atlas. They spool up and down faster, and they're the fastest size 1 drives that will allow for a full jump throughout the system. The Hornet also has a size 1 drive. It has an EOS, which is not that much slower than a Voyage or an Atlas. It's in comparison to each other, it's pretty close to the same speed. So if you don't want to waste the money on getting a new quantum drive, don't, because this thing can jump all over the system with the same drive. The F8C Lightning comes with a size 1 quantum drive. So while it has a lot of size 2 components all around here, like a power plant and shields, it has a slow quantum drive. Interesting on that. And then the Scorpius also has a size 1 quantum drive. If quantum speed actually matters to you, then you could go from, at least as a heavy fighter, then you could go look at the Vanguard series, which the Warden is actually classified as the only one that's a fighter, even though all of them are kind of heavy fighters. They just have different missions. But the Vanguard Warden has a size 2 crossfield drive, which is going to get you around the system way faster than the other drives. You could even upgrade that to a XL1, which is the fastest size 2 drive, military drive, and you're not going to run out of quantum fuel. You have a ton of quantum fuel in this thing, 2,500 liters. Which one of these ships had a ton of fuel? It looks like the F8C has a quantum fuel of 2,500 liters as well. And at least in Erkul here, it's showing that would really mean it should have a size 2 drive, but that would mean you could put a VK00 on it, and you could get from, is a VK00 faster? It's faster than the size 2 military grade A drives, but that means you could get like Microtech to ArcCorp in 6 minutes 9 seconds. It would be faster. Erkul's math must be weird on here. But you can put a fast drive on here if indeed it actually has that amount of quantum fuel capacity. So let's move over to a close-up. All right, so what did we learn today? Well, we went over the loadout section here, and we learned that these ships are still highly customizable. That is one of the coolest things to me in Star Citizen, and one of the things that kind of got me hooked on this combat career that you can do, the bounty hunting, the mercenary work, things like that. I love the combat ships in Star Citizen. While I do prefer Anvil as a manufacturer, I do like most or all of these ships. Every time, it's like getting in an old car that I used to own or that I've driven. It's like after a while, you start to fall in love with that vehicle. You start to fall in love with these ships, and you get to know them. You get to know what they can do, how they handle, and you're just like, man, this is such a cool ship. Like, I get inside of a Gladius, and it has the coolest startup animations because it's a Squadron 42 ship. So the way the voice sounds with the Aegis voice, the way the MFDs are set up, the way the cockpit glass is set up, the feel of that ship and how fast it moves and turns, it's phenomenal. Then I hop into a Hornet, and I'm transported to a different ship, significantly different handling, different weapon loadout, and I start flying it around. I'm like, man, this is so awesome. This is so cool. It's so much fun to play with. Then I hop into a big heavy fighter because I know I'm going on an HRT or something like that, where I need more solo reliability and be able to take damage. Because I know I'm going to get hit in master modes because you're flying slower. So I hop into that ship. I'm like, oh my God, there's 8 guns. And there's enough missiles, and I can take damage. So while these missions are harder, right? HRTs, ERTs, VHRTs, you have the right ship for the job. And as you become a better pilot, you get to know the ship better, what it can do, what it can't do, how to boost away from trouble. The whole caveat behind the combat career, the dogfighting career, is it takes practice. You need to spend time either in the PU or arena commander or with your friends fighting each other and getting used to the ship that you have. I, at this point, have so many ships that I have to remember capabilities of ships, and they fly differently in space compared to atmosphere, and how long I can really hold down that trigger for these guns. Can I still fight with this ship if it runs out of ballistics? That balancing act is incredibly rewarding, and it's incredibly fun for me. I don't so much get into the PvP because I guess you have to be that type of person that likes to be that, like, I'm competitive as a person, but I also kind of think of myself as a nice person. Like, I don't randomly grief people. I don't really like to do the pirate gameplay. I know some people do, and that's fine. You're wired differently, and the game allows for that. But I don't have the need to test my abilities against other people. I guess I'm always the good fighter, the good paladin, right? Lawful nice. I don't know what to say, but that's just the kind of the player I like to be. I like to do kind of good versus evil type of thing, or at least in my perception of that. And so I like to fight against the computer because that's fun for me. It's also less risk, and I guess I don't like other people talking too much smack about how crappy of a pilot I am when they could be a phenomenal pilot and I'm just not. But every once in a while, PvP is fun, and doing friendly contests and things like that actually makes PvP fun. But many of those things, ego gets involved in, and they turn into not fun. So I try to avoid that conflicting part of the game, and I just, at least right now anyway, because I'm still learning master modes, and I think a lot of people are still learning master modes, and it's just a significantly different way to fly and fight. The jousting and the speed, for the most part, are gone, and now it's not really, for me, it's not so much how you fly, although that does matter. It's really the loadouts that you have, the kind of ship that you have, using the abilities that your ship has in order to take advantage of your situation, right? So if you're going into an HRT solo with a Gladius, just know that you're not going to be able to take hits like you could in an F8C or even a Hornet. You don't have the hit points for that. You don't have the shields for that. So when your shields go out, I mean, you may want to boost away and then try looking at coming back. Sometimes discretion is the better part of valor, and there's necessarily no shame in running away and then recharging and then coming back into the fight. So Know your strengths, know your weaknesses, set your loadout appropriate for how you like to fly, how you like to fight, and get in there and practice and have some fun. I hope you guys have learned things from the video. If it was interesting, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and the video. If you want to hang out with our org, the B team, we do stream every Thursday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time on YouTube and Twitch. And we also stream on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. with Jawa with Jawa. That's the relaxed mining, salvaging chill stream. Versus Thursdays, which we get into some shenanigans. Yeah, hop on into the Discord. Link is in the description below. We have a lot of people that in the org and in the group in the Discord that like to play, that like to help other people, that, you know, have some fun. Come play with us. Jawa and I are both military veterans of the U.S. military, so we both have an aviation background. There's a reason I like the Hornet so much. Maybe it's in the name. But yeah, come stop by, come hang out, and hopefully we'll see you there. Hopefully you learned something in the video. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comment section below. If you're just out here trolling, save it. You're just going to piss me off. But maybe that's your goal. So I'm Fist-25 for Fist Java Save Universe, saying thank you for stopping by. And remember, if the fist don't get you, the lightning bolt will. Good night, Stan.